Hey everybody, and welcome to Grumpy and Shadow Show.
I'm Grumpy.
And I'm Shadow.
And today we're talking Flash, Episode 3, Magenta, on the CW network. So let's get to it.
So we start off with Julian being a total jerk to Barry, as Barry tries to tell him he's leaving a few minutes early for a date.
More or less a douche.
Yeah, he definitely was. I mean, I know if I ever left work 3 minutes early and my boss gave me crap about it, I'd be out the door anyway. Screw waiting 3 minutes.
Especially when he's got a hot date with Irish.
You know, and the thing is, Julian's not even his boss. So, you know, he really has no business telling Barry he's got to wait 2.5 minutes before he can go on a date.
He's a wannabe boss, basically.
I mean, and it's not even the fact that 2.5 minutes is going to make a big deal because he is the Flash. He can make it home in like 30 seconds or less to get ready for this date. It's just the fact that that Julian felt like he had the right to stop Barry. That's what irked me, and I'm pretty sure it irked the rest of you too, or it should have. So they go on their date, and it's really touching. Barry shows up with a heart-shaped bunch of flowers.
And Irish was very touched by this.
Yeah, even though she was surprised to the point where he thought she was disappointed. So he changed the heart to the word iris, which, personally, I mean, I know, you know, not you, you're not a romantic or anything, but I know, romantically, I would have rather had the heart. I would have stayed with the heart. I wouldn't have changed it to her name. But, at that point, Iris said to him, basically, and this is my paraphrasing, dude, I want to date Barry Allen. I want to go on a date with Barry Allen, not the Flash. Leave the Flash at home and just be you. And so he agreed, and they went out on the date.
So what happens is a robbery across the street, and he's kind of hesitating, and then Iris says, go ahead, basically, maybe not in her words, but in mine. So he flashes there to help, and he comes back in 2 seconds, I guess he must have helped, and they continue their date.
Yeah, the sirens went out, like he wasn't even gone a second. He was fast enough to blow out the candle, and by the time you realize the candle's out, he's backing in his seat. And everything's done. And you get the idea that something just isn't clicking on this date. Iris doesn't really, I mean, she's trying to be interested in his life aside from the Flash. And he realizes that something just ain't popping. It's just not happening for them. No idea why. It just wasn't clicking. So her villainous name is Magenta. That's what they call her.
But her real name's Frankie Kane, and she is struggling, kind of like there's like I think like an evil person in her, and the sweet, lovable Frankie in her. And she lived with a foster family, the father, which was kind of abusive and stuff. She really doesn't like him because he wasn't a nice person.
Well, let's be honest. He was the typical or the stereotypical abusive stepfather or abusive foster parent. He'd come home, you know, demand that she keeps her mouth shut and doesn't say a word. He wants dinner on the table when he walks in the door. He threatens her, you know, you open your mouth, I'll send you back to where I got you from.
And then she did give him dinner, and then she said, he's like, that's not enough.
Yeah, he just wasn't happy with anything anyone did. He was verbally abusive to his wife, verbally abusive to Frankie, and you get the feeling that at times he may have been physically abusive. I think that's more of what happened behind the scenes that we didn't see, and that's kind of what drove her over the edge, was not only but his mental abuse, but his physical abuse, and the fact that she was done taking it. And somehow, this sweet, innocent girl, all of a sudden her eyes turn purple.
And next thing we know, she's a metahuman, which could has the powers of taking anything metal, and raising them up or raising them down. She could maneuver them any way she wanted.
Right. She basically, if anyone is familiar with Magneto, and I'm sure most of you are, she basically has Magneto's powers. She's a human electromagnet, so to speak. So she can move anything, and it doesn't, apparently it doesn't even matter how much it weighs or how far away it is. She can pick and choose. If there's something metal in front of her, and something metal 8 yards away, and she wants that thing 8 yards away, she can get that thing without it affecting anything metal in front of her.
I mean, we'll talk about this later, but at one point she was able to pick up a whole ship, but we'll talk about that later in the show.
Right. So what Frankie does is she snaps. And she uses her new meta powers to pull a lamppost in through the front bay window of her house, putting her foster father in the hospital.
And that's where the bastard deserved to be.
I personally was hoping he was dead. Just my opinion, but I thought that she killed him, and that that's how they were going to find out about her powers. But apparently, what happened was he was in the hospital. The next thing we see of Frankie, she's being questioned by Joe and Barry at the precinct. And Joe and Barry are pretty much, they don't know about Magenta. They know about, that Frankie just had a horrible thing happen to her family. And they're trying to get information as to what happened, how she thinks that the metal light post ended up through the window, and if she saw anything, that kind of basic stuff. But Julian shows up, and being the consummate dick that he is, tricks her into getting a glass from her so that he can run her DNA. Put that on hold. While they're dealing with that, Wally's dealing with another crisis of his own.
What Wally wants is he wants some speed. He wants to be another Flash.
Right.
And it's not happening. And because he wants to help people like Barry does.
Now he has a nice little talk with his dad. And his dad tells him it may not happen. Don't push yourself. If it happens, it happens. But if it doesn't, you can still help people using your mind. Go to school, get an education, and do, what you've always wanted to do, and that will help people. But Wally's not happy with that. He wants to be physically active in helping other humans, other people. And anything less, he's not going to settle for. And it's causing some serious emotional conflict in Wally, because as much as he wants it, it's not coming. It's not. It's like a 10-year-old who wants to be as tall as the 18-year-old grown-ups that he knows. And every night he goes to sleep and prays that he grows bigger, and he prays that he grows bigger, and it's just not happening for him. And that's the way Wally was.
And he's thinking about ways that he can jolt this into him. He's given different ways, different scenarios.
Now Joe and Barry talk to him. Joe and Barry talk to him, and he kind of settles down on the whole I want to be a speedster thing. Kind of. Keep that in mind. Flashback to the, get it how I said flashback? Flashback to the Julian part, and we have Julian now running the DNA and finding out that Frankie's a metahuman. So instead of, talking to her and finding out how she got her powers and, doing an active reporter type investigation, police type investigation, he decides to confront her, calling her all sorts of names, telling her that she put her her foster father in the hospital, and she's a criminal, and she's no good, and this and that, until she snaps. What happens? Her eyes turn purple, her attitude changes, and she's no longer Frankie, she's Magenta, and she's gonna punish Julian.
And evil comes out.
She basically destroys the lobby of the police department, trying to get that giant plaque that says freedom off the wall to crush Julian. Barry is there, sees what's going on, and uses his flash speed to, believe me, I thought this was a dumb idea too. He leaves the scene, puts on his outfit, comes back just in time to save Julian from getting squashed. Now, I mean, I would have just pulled him out of the way and kept running in so Julian wouldn't know who I was, but that's just me. So he saves Julian from being squashed, goes outside, tries to talk Magenta down, and she holds a cop car with a police officer in it 30 feet off the ground and says, you got a choice. You could either catch me or you could save that man up there in the car.
So what she do? She lets the cop car down.
Well, she didn't let it down. She dropped that fucking.
As the car's coming down real quickly, Flash goes into the cop car, saves the cop, and the cop car comes, bam!
And where is she? Gone. Again, she just vanished. So now, they're off on their date. After Barry saves whatever was going on across the street, their phones both go off at the same time. Joe's texting one, Cisco's texting the other, get to Star Labs immediately. So he grabs Iris, they speed to Star Labs to find a portal open.
And who pops out?
Harry.
Dr. Wells, and his daughter, Jessie Quit.
Well, Jesse Wells, for now. Well, here's how it actually happened. Wells comes through, and the first thing he says is, Alan, I need your help. Barry looks at him and says, with what? And all of a sudden, you see Jesse come speeding through the breach with a big yellow streak around her head and zips around the room, as Harry says, with that. Somehow, Jesse got her speed.
And we also know that Dr. Wells is not very happy about Jesse having any kind of speed at all. He wants nothing to do with it. Nothing.
It's not that he hates it, it's that he's worried about his daughter.
He doesn't want nothing to happen to her. So he's kind of worried about some things she might get into if she helps fight crime like Barry does.
Now, and so, the whole team is there. Cisco, and Caitlin, and Joe, and Barry, and Iris, and Wally. And the first thing Wally says is, Jesse, you're a speedster now too? And you could see the disappointment on his face. Because again, someone else got their speed before he did. So they go, so Caitlin tells him, hey, you know, you want to run some tests? Why don't we go to the speed lab and we can run some tests. Of course, Barry's never been to the speed lab because it's a new timeline. Neither has Wells or Jesse. And the minute he gets there, he deduces Barry went back in time again. And so, yeah, it caused all these problems, but the one thing that hasn't changed is that Wally is now even more upset than ever when he can see how fast Jesse's moving.
It's like, I want to become the Flash too, I can't.
He's like, I gotta go. I can't be around this, I gotta go. We find out that there's an APB out on Magenta, no one can find her until she shows up at a hospital. The same hospital that Iris is interviewing Frankie's foster father on the accident. And Iris is no, she's a very smart cookie. She's not new to the game. And 2 minutes in, she deduces that Frankie's dad, or foster dad, is abusive and basically is the target of all Frankie's frustrations. So she calls the nurse to move him so that she wouldn't know where he was, so she couldn't cause any issues. When Frankie shows up and picks up a gigantic oil tanker, I believe it was an oil tanker, boat, ship, out of the water, on top of a 40-story building. This chick's got some serious power. I mean, I've seen Magneto lift up, a lot of things, even a baseball stadium. But that was years and years after he developed and honed his powers and his skills. She's has her powers for a week, and she's already lifting up giant oil tankers 40 stories in the air. That's some serious threat. But never fear. Barry is here.
So Barry goes and helps, and he says to Dr. Wells, I don't know if I can stop this. How can I stop this? So Dr. Wells says start running in like a figure 8 to start a wind tunnel, and that will raise it up. While he's doing that, it is raise it up. But he says he can't do this and talk to Magenta at the same time. So what happens? Dr. Wells looks at Jesse, and he says, Jesse, go help him. And she looks at him like, you sure? Like in amazement. So Jesse flashes, goes help Barry. So Jesse continues to figure 8 with the wind, and then Barry goes to Magenta to kind of help, hopefully talk some sense into her.
Now, that's where the classic line came in. Wells told Jesse, go help Barry, and she says, Dad, are you sure? And then he utters those iconic words, run, Jesse, run. And off she goes. That's all she needed. So Barry's down there talking to Magenta, and he finally gets through to the Frankie inside.
The caring Frankie.
And she agrees to put down the tanker. She cries to Barry and says, I'm so sorry for everything I've done. I don't know what's happening to me. But Barry has an idea that he knows what's going on with her, and he takes her to Star Labs so that they could help her.
And he did tell her that it's not your fault.
Right. So they could help her. Well, while they're there at Star Labs, she's explaining how she got her abilities. She said it started off with some dreams, then they got stronger and into nightmares. Then this guy started coming into her dreams named Alchemy. And it was right after that that her blackouts started happening and she became Magenta. Wally overhears this, and it looks like he gets the idea that he is going to somehow get his powers through his dreams. Now I'm hoping that he doesn't do something stupid like go and search out alchemy.
Wally wants to like start his powers, jolt his powers, because that's how when he was asking Jesse, that's how something happened. I forgot what happened.
She was walking and stepped into the street, into the crosswalk, and the truck came barreling at her.
And she said, I don't know what happened, and boom, she got out of the way. So Wally had the same idea. So he was with Jesse, they were walking, and he had the idea. So he got in the way of a car, and the car's coming, coming, but he wasn't getting any speed, so Jesse's the one that kind of saved his life.
Right, and basically tore him a new butthole and said, what the hell's wrong with you? Why are you stepping into traffic and doing all this stuff? And he tells her, I want my speed just like everybody else. And it's not happening. So he had this look in his eye like he was going to search out alchemy. And I can only say that's going to be horrible. Now back to Magenta real quick. In her tales to the Flash, to Team Flash, about how she became Magenta, they surmised that alchemy being in the dreams and coming to her, and then her blackouts, that she was one of the 4 remaining husks from last week that we don't know who they were. So now we have 2 husks accounted for. The rival was the first one they found. Magenta was one of the 4, so there's 3 left. Now we need to find out who those 3 are before he creates more of them. Now, Barry and Iris go on another date. This time, they agree that there was something wrong with the last date, and what was wrong with the last date was that they were trying to be people that they're not. And Barry is the Flash, and if it takes being the Flash and talking about the Flash and, you know, relating to things that way to keep them together, then that's what they're going to do. They're not going to hide themselves anymore. So he sets up this nice romantic night on a beachfront in a gazebo. Food, beautiful setting, flowers and everything, candles, all beautiful. When he gets the call and he's got to go as the Flash, and him being the gentleman that he is, bullshit. I'm pissed about this move. He left her in the gazebo and went back to Star Labs. Now, I don't know why he couldn't have used his speed and brought her back to the city at least and said, here, now you don't have to worry about getting back, because he sped her out there. They didn't have a car.
Yeah.
You know, she obviously didn't have a cell phone on her. So what, was she supposed to walk all the way back to the city to go? I thought that was kind of a dick move on Barry's part, but, you know, it is what it is. So, yeah, he gets called back. Okay, so they're out on their date. Everything's beautiful. Barry gets a call, leaves her there, Iris that is, and has to run back to the city because Magenta is holding the tanker over the hospital. Now, after it's all said and done, Frankie thinks she's going to jail for what she did to her dad. But instead, Joe worked out with Caitlin and a surprise for Frankie. Caitlin found a good foster family, a very caring foster family outside of the city that Frankie could stay with, and they would take care of her and help her.
Frankie thought that they were going to keep her, was going to go to jail, like you said,
Right.
but what Barry said, you know, he gave her a hug and says, you know, it's not your fault, and I think everybody else knew that too.
And once everybody saw what was going on, a lot of people's attitudes towards each other kind of changed. And you see Harry sit down with Jessie to have a heart-to-heart with her about what's going on and what she's going through. And she thinks that he's going to give her the, you know, you can't do this, I love you, and I don't want anything to happen to you speech, but instead, he gives her something better. He gives her her own speedster outfit. And he says, you are Jessie Quick. And gives her her new Jessie Quick uniform. Which is where we leave off. Now next week, next episode, we are going to, we're going to have a lot of surprises. Now if you remember, last week, one of the things I said is, one of the biggest moments I've been waiting for is Jessie Quick to come back. Okay, so next episode, we're going to meet Mirror Master and Top. Next episode is called, I believe it's called The New Rogues. And spoiler for anyone who hasn't been up to date, we're going to have some form of Captain Cold. I don't know if he's going to be Citizen Cold. I don't know if he's going to be a more evil Captain Cold, a more ruthless one. but Captain Cold will be in that episode. Mirror Master is going to be the episode bad with Top. Now, what they did was they made Top a female this time and have Mirror Master and Top kind of in a working / personal relationship in their crime spree behavior or crime spree activities. Along with that, I'm sure that we're going to see more of the mystery man that killed the rival in his cell. I'm pretty much banking that it's Savitar, but right now we still have a ways to go, a little bit more information that we need before we can, you know, officially conclude that it is him. Also expect to see more of, or a little more of the Dr. Alchemy and a lot more of the one our favorite, the one that we love to hate, Julian. And also Wally's continued angst over not being a speedster. Plus, we get to see Jesse for the first time team up with Barry in full uniform.
I can't wait to see that one.
Now, just for any of you who look at her uniform and go, "Oh, that looks slightly familiar," you are correct. That was Trajectory's outfit with a few modifications. They have the lightning bolt on the chest, and Jesse has a new yellow lightning bolt belt for the outfit to kind of offset and match Barry's outfit. They're basically the same colors, they're the same color scheme. But it's going to be a very, very interesting episode. So, now that you know everything we think, I'd like to hear what you think. So leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Don't forget also in the description below, there's the addresses, our addresses for our Twitter and our Facebook. You can join both free of charge. We respond and reply to all comments. And with that, I'd like to say, have a good night.
Join us next time. Thanks for watching.